Up on my workbench today I have a Toshiba. This is a combination video recorder and DVD player that I found in the garbage can. So we're going to take a look at that machine here and see if it's even workable. It may be full of water. It was being found in a garbage can. And you notice my bench is a little quieter today. I got rid of that DVR that's been sitting there for the past few months. And what that DVR was doing was, I guess around December, beginning of December, when I was unpacking the holiday lights and stuff, I noticed some evidence that I'd had a little house guest. So I was trying to catch him on camera, and I put a camera up in the attic space hoping to catch the house guest. And we did get a visit from him, but unfortunately he got away. I was going to try and catch it on video. I did catch it on video though, where he or whatever actually took the bait, but got away, let's just say. But having seen no activity there in a couple months, I think maybe he's gone. And what had happened was I'd developed a small hole in my soffit. Anyway, they say that mice can get in the tiniest of little holes, and that, I think, is what happened. Is he was crawling up a cable and was able to get access to my attic space. So we'll keep watching for him. I left the camera up there just in case he comes back, so I can catch him. As you can see, this machine is quite dirty, and I don't know what shape we're going to find the inside of it, whether it's even going to be repairable or whether it works or what. It's from 2004, but we'll take this thing apart and just see whether it's going to be feasible to make it work, and just see what the heck's wrong with it. It's just a DVD player, not a recorder. And as you can see, inside it is wet. So I guess the first thing we need to do to this unit is to let it dry out. But it is soaking wet inside here. I'm not going to be powering this thing up for a while. We'll let this thing dry. I'm not even going to work on it tonight because as you can see, this thing is just soaking wet. The drum is soaking wet. So I'm not going to put power to this thing until this unit has had a good chance to dry out. Yeah. The patient may not be savable, but once we get the unit dried out, I'll make an assessment on it at that point. Okay, so this machine I picked up out of the garbage can there, it was all wet, so I've left the thing drying. Wanted to make sure that it was good and dry before I try putting any power to this thing to see what happens. First, we're going to clean this mess off the heads here. As you can see, the video heads themselves are pretty sad. That looks like rust. I'm not holding much hope that this thing is going to do anything at all, but let's try cleaning that mess off there first. So we'll just use our tried and true isopropyl alcohol on a piece of paper. We'll just see if we can get the heads to come clean. Get that crap off the heads. I don't think we're going to have much luck, but we'll try it anyway. Excessive amount of corrosion on here. We'll try to get this off. I've resorted to using my fingernail to scrape the surface of the drum. I'm not putting my fingernail in the vicinity of the heads, just on the upper drum surface to try and get some of this corrosion and pitting off. See, the head's down here. I don't know what shape it's in. Probably not too good. It looks like it's pretty bad, pretty rough shape. If there's even a head remaining there, it may be rusted down to nothing. But I want to see what happens when I plug this thing in, because it could very well go kapow. Just for fun, let's plug this thing in and see if it does go kerpow. Are we ready? Power. Well, blow me down. This stupid thing is trying to turn on. Do I dare plug it in to a monitor and see if it does anything? Turn it on and we'll see whether it gets a picture. I got a blue screen. Let's see if it opens. Nah, this thing's not gonna play. Better not play. This thing was sitting in a garbage can for God knows how long. A couple weeks maybe. So we'll see if this thing plays. Do I dare show you what's on the screen? This bloody thing's working. The DVD player is working. I don't think the VHS player is going to work with the heads looking in the shape they're looking, but as you can see, the DVD player on that is working. Shall we try the tape deck, the VCR? So we switch it over to VCR side of things. We'll just load up the old color bar tape and see whether anything happens. Don't think anything's gonna happen. I think it's dead. The loading motor doesn't appear to be doing anything. Oh, wait a minute. I spoke too soon. It just loaded the tape. And the head drum is spinning. I don't believe this. This thing's playing. And it's playing in hi-fi too. And my cat is wondering what the heck this thing is. It's unbelievable that this combination machine that's been sitting in a dumpster, it was full of water when I brought the thing home. I think we've got some shots of it when I brought it home, and I poured water out of it. The thing was full of water. I've done nothing other than clean the heads on this thing. Incredible. I mean, it looks like it's got a bit of an alignment problem, but that's to be expected. I mean, this thing is, the head on this thing is it's all still crusty, probably contaminating my put the head cleaning wheel in there. I think if I tweak the guidepost slightly here, I can probably make that picture perfect. I don't know. You tell me. My tint is off a little bit on my monitor. I'm just going to adjust my tint. I think it's probably, I had this monitor down off the there we go, that's a bit better. Still got to get a new light for my other light. That VCR is recording. Incredible. I mean, playing back. Incredible. I that was not expected. I did not expect to see. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I know what that is. That's some sugar that's on this tape. It's going to clog the heads. Have to let it go by. You'll see it. Probably. You can hear it. This tape went through a machine that's had some juice, had juice on it, and it's contaminated the tape. So this portion of the tape is kind of buggered up. Let's just fast forward it a bit here. Get past the sticky part of the tape. Back to play. We'll clean the heads with our finger. You'll see, I'm just gonna touch my finger to the back of the tape. Right now the heads are clogged because the tape is contaminated. And it will clear up in a second here. There we go. We cleared the head. We cleared the head clog. Like this color bar tape is on its last legs, and it's time for me to make a new one with my color bar generator, my tone generator. But that's playing perfect. That's incredible, considering what this machine's been through. Let's see if it'll eject. Complete with all the crud that's still on this lower drum here. It's I'm amazed. I'm amazed that it plays at all. It's not rough or anything, it's smooth, but it doesn't look very pretty. But just the fact that this thing actually even does anything is amazing, considering that it was full of water when I got it. We'll load the tape again and just see what happens. That's the problem with this thing. That's probably why it was tossed out. Is that when you push the tape in, it doesn't start the loading up. If I give it a bit of a turn by hand, there it goes. Or maybe it's. Oh, hold on a second. It may be the photo sensors. I got a lot of light in here, and a lot of these machines base detecting the tape going in on the photo sensors being interrupted. So if I just cover this up here and push the tape in, will it go in? Aha, there's all it is. You see that? That's why it wouldn't go in. I got so much light coming down here on my bench that it's triggering one of the photo sensors. And what this unit does is when you push the tape in, I'm thinking it's probably this photo sensor right down here. Let me just move the camera so you can see what I'm pointing at. So this is the photo sensor, I think, is the one responsible for detecting if there's a tape. If you watch this arm here, when I push the tape in, this should block the light coming through this little hole. but because there's so much light shining in, it's not doing anything. But if I cover it with my hand, now the unit sees the light block and it loads. I'll do that again. Whoops, turn it off, turn it back on here. I hit the power button instead of the eject button. So now you'll see. This time, instead of covering the whole thing with my hand, I'll just cover this portion here with my finger. I'll just do that and create a shadow so that you can see it load. That should do it. So it's not going to do anything now, but if I just cover it like that, you see, I'm just blocking the light that's hitting this photo transistor down here. That's why it wasn't going in. And so there's really nothing wrong with this. Someone threw out a perfectly good machine that has no problems whatsoever just because they didn't want it. The DVD player also appears to work. The VCR is working on this thing. Let's do a test recording and see if it records. I gotta find a remote for it, but I think I might have a remote that'll do a Toshiba DVD and a VCR. Let me go find that remote and we'll test this thing out and see if it actually records. I bet it does. So I've got a tape here I can record on. I think I can record on this tape. I'm pretty sure I can record on this tape. We'll see if there's something on it first of all. But I believe it's my recording tape. Yep, I can record on this. So, I mean, this machine's probably going to need an alignment, but let's just try recording. I've just got it tuning an off-air channel from my media player. Well, my remote that I thought would work on this is not the right remote, but I can hit the record button here and start a recording in the SP speed. I don't know, I can try the EP speed without the correct remote, but it will record in the SP speed. We'll see if it plays back. Okay, stop. Rewind. Oh, gotta cover the sensor up so that it'll go into reverse. Okay. Play. Oh. Rewind it. Didn't rewind far enough. Oh, wait a minute, I did. There it is. There's my recording. It does record. Forward. There's nothing on this tape. It's a blank tape, I believe. Go back into reverse search. There's my recording. And there's what was on the tape prior. Just some still pictures. So this thing appears to be working. We'll just check out to full speed here. Stop. Go into fast forward. There's fast forward. Stop. Go to rewind. I have to cover the sensor up here because the light will stop it. But there it goes into rewind. Unit appears to be working. Rewind all the way back to the beginning of the tape. Stop. There we go. It stopped. Let's eject the tape. We'll just put this thing on the scope and check the alignment with the scope. We look down here, we can see video envelope, hi-fi envelope, and head switching. So those are going to be our test points that we're going to hook the scope up to. Turn on the scope, I'm going to hook up the channel V input. It's going to be clipped onto the head switching point. And the channel A, I can either look at the hi-fi envelope or the video envelope. So we'll clip onto our head switching point here. And that's got to get my other probe. Video envelope and, of course, ground. Now we'll check our alignment. Okay, we got our color bars playing here. Let's go over to the scope and take a look at our waveform. Now, the last time I used this thing, I had it looking at the horizontal output of a TV, so set up our scope here so we can look at our envelope. Our RF envelope actually doesn't look to be too bad. Remember, I did tweak it looking at it on the monitor. Those are creases in the tape that are going by there. That's actually a scratch in the tape, I can see it. But look at the tape itself. You can see scratches in this tape. See the scratch? That's where I've used my fingernail to clean another machine's heads. Okay, we're going to adjust the exit guide here just slightly up or down to make the waveform completely flat, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. If we look over at the scope, the exit waveform is going to be this end here, and I'm just going to adjust it until the waveform is completely flat. If I move the probe over to the hi-fi envelope, which is the next one over, now we're looking at the audio from the hi-fi heads. Again, the hi-fi head's actually a better one to look at just because the track is much narrower, so you have less error. You see what I mean? The hi-fi head, if it's not completely flat, it'll show up right away. So we want to flatten that off. So we've got the flattest waveform. The hi-fi head is actually the preferred head. My camera's having a trouble looking at this monitor. Hi-fi head is actually the preferred one to look at just because your video tracks are big, wide, especially in SP. They're 68 micron tracks, right? On a 4-head machine, you've got a 22 micron head for the EP speed, and you've got a 68 micron head for the SP speed. The audio heads themselves are very, very fine. They're at a different angle, first of all. They're what they call deep layer recording. So we just have that sugar going through here again, and it just caused the tape to actually stick. It'll probably contaminate my heads. Yeah, stiction. It's gonna stick. This is what happens when you've got I'll show you the tape. This tape has been through a few machines that have been in pretty rough shape, and you'll see the surface of the tape here. It's sticky. So when I run this tape, I know that it's got some problems. I'm gonna have to, as I say, make a new tape and toss this one out because this one here has been damaged a few times. It's gone through a few VCRs where someone spilled something. A tape has gone through a VCR that's had juice. Usually it's juice, that's the worst thing. Apple juice, orange juice, whatever. That's the absolute worst because it's so sticky. Anything with sugar, right? And the next tape that goes in, of course, picks that all up from the head. Anyway, as I was explaining, the hi-fi audio head is a much narrower track. We'll just help that along to get past this sticky part. There we go. And my head's contaminated again, thanks to this bad tape. Yeah, we'll clean it this way. We're getting there. It was a real bad contamination. There we go. Anyway, the audio head, as I was explaining before I got distracted there. It's going to self-track itself now that the heads are cleared. The audio head is a much narrower track. Because the same audio head is used for the 2-hour, 4-hour, and 6-hour speed, the audio heads are typically the 22 or even smaller heads. So even at the SP speed, you've got a little skinny audio track and then a big guard band between the two and then another little skinny audio track. So it just makes it a little more critical where you can have a picture that's very good, but your audio hi-fi track can be off a bit and you'll get noise and buzz and stuff in the sound. So if you have a test point for the audio envelope, that's always the one to go to. Flatten it out, give you a nice flat signal here, a nice flat waveform, and that's just the best you can shoot for. So now that we know this unit works, I think let's take this mechanism apart and see how tear this down and see what the actual tape transport looks like on this. I've never taken one of these ones apart, so let's see what it looks like. Should be able to release some catches here. And the faceplate should come off. Just some catches on the bottom and sides and top, and this face should come off this machine. Yeah, be careful, there is a ribbon cable that plugs in here. There's a ribbon cable over here that plugs in the front panel buttons, so be sure to remove that. Otherwise if you break it, this thing's never going to work. So be sure to disconnect this little connector from the side here before attempting to remove the front. That was my light. My loaded light just sprung and knocked a bunch of stuff down. So it looks like a pretty cheap mechanism. Just looking for screws to hold it down. Looks like there's 2 or 3 screws. 1, 2, looks like there's 2 screws anyway. 1 screw here and another screw that goes down through here, accessible through this hole. If we remove those 2 screws, we should be able to remove the mechanism. I think that's it. We'll also have to remove the wires from the full erase head, which just unplugged, and we'll probably have to undo, we may not have to undo these. I don't know if they plug in or not, but we'll find out when I lift the chassis up. But I should be able to just lift this thing out of here, I'm thinking. There's a little catch underneath here. Just pry that catch over. Right, that little catch right there, just pry that over and that clip opens up. And now the deck will lift out. And there is a plug that comes out back here for the audio control head. The other ones plug in, so there's just this one extra plug that has to come out. My recommendation would be unplug it from the top of the head and leave it plugged in to the board, because it's going to be a pain in the butt to try and put this back in when you're putting the chassis back. So that goes in like that. There's a couple plugs on the bottom here, one for the capstan motor and there's another one here for the drum. This is for the actual video heads themselves. They plug into the board right there. And look at this wonderful chassis. Let's tear this thing down and do an alignment on it. See what the mechanical timing's like. And this unit does not use a mode encoder switch. And I'll show you how this one works. there's your mode encoder right there. This one's optical. These two sensors. Okay, there's an LED and a photo transistor. There's a beam of light shining across each of these two. On the main cam gear, you'll see that there are slots in this main cam gear, and as it rotates, these slots will block or allow the light to pass through from the photo sensors on the board down here. So as it rotates, these ones here, these are the rotation sensor for your supply reel and your take-up reel. This is the LED light source for the tape end sensors, and here are the two, the take-up and supply photo transistors that detect whether there's a tape installed or not. So reliability wise, these ones are generally quite reliable, but what does happen is these little photo transducers, as they call them, photo interrupters, they have been known to fail. And when they fail, it will cause you problems, very much like a mode switch that's gone bad. The mechanism will usually jam. The motor will spin and it'll go right to one extreme and it will jam. On this mechanism we have multiple timing marks. There's a timing mark here for the main loading gear to the cam main slide. There's a timing mark here. There's a hole right there. It lines up with an arrow here. And there's a timing mark over here. And I'm assuming that there's another little hole that's directly below the chassis. Let's take off this cut or this E-clip so that we can actually remove this gear. So this hole here in the gear, where are we here? This little hole is going to line up with this little lever here. That's got to be in that position. You're going to see the lever through there. If I rotate, now that I've got the main cam open, if I rotate this gear, what will happen is I have to actually release the cassette compartment because the cassette is going to try and go down. I think. Where's my release here? There we go. So this actually loads and unloads the cassette itself as well. This operates the cassette mechanism. I'm just looking for the lever that controls it. There'll be a lever on here somewhere. Oh yes, it's right here. The side gear here is controlled by this main cam. You can see the pin down inside here. So when it's up, that pin is back like that. Okay, and as the tape goes in, I just have to release the little catch on here. It pulls the tape down, locks it in place. Once the tape is locked in place, as the cam gear continues to rotate, it will now move this main slide gear here. So once this main slide gear starts to move, that will move the loading arms into position. When it's completely loaded, there's two little marks on here that line up. I don't know if you can see them here or not. Let me see if I can get a close-up. So as you can see, here's the timing marks, and as that gets into full loaded position, those two are going to be centered and pointing at each other. You can't see it underneath here, but you get the picture. There's two more of them over here, so if I remove this, if I take this back all the way back, if I were to remove this cut washer or this E-clip here and remove this gear, you'll see that these two gears are going to line up with each other. Right, so there's these two. So we know that our loading arms are correctly timed when the two point at each other like that. Then we take this cam gear. The cam gear has timing marks that are going to line up with that hole there. So if we put the cam gear back in place, line it up like that, Now we're properly aligned. Now I can take my E-clip and I can put my E-clip back on here. If we want to take this one step further, if I remove that E-clip again, pop off my gear. If we want to take out these guides, they just lift off like that. To remove the guide, we should be able to take the guide all the way forward and or all the way back, and it should drop out. There's plastic on these things. I'm just looking to see where the channel is. It should just lift out here. I may have to remove something else to get the guide back far enough. But yeah, I probably have to remove this. If I want to remove the guide, I'd have to remove this little piece here, because that's what holds the guide all the way in place. Then it can drop through these channels here. But I won't go to that extent. Got the guide back. I want to put the loading arm back on. I just bring my guide into place, drop my loading arm on, line it up, and I just have to align my timing marks here, which I haven't done yet. I just have to align my timing marks, so I just have to lift it up slightly, move it back so that my timing marks both line up. And as I turn the guides, it goes like that. Okay, same with my main cam. I'm going to drop my main cam gear on now. We're going to line up the timing mark here. So here's our main timing mark on the slide. We're going to put our, this is actually the sub cam gear. The main cam gear is this big one here. So we're going to drop our sub cam gear on, line it up with the hole there, and pull the guides back in place. It'll drop in place. Put our E-clip back on. I'm not quite locked in. There we go. Now we are. Okay, now the clip will go on just like that. Okay, that one's done. Now we're going to retime my other gear over here. So we've got our timing mark here, which is marked in blue on this one, but there's a little hole there as well. And we've got this little hole that's going to line up with this little piece here, and this other little cam lever has to be back. So that one has to be pulled back like that. Okay, this one's got to be pushed out all the way out. And we'll drop the gear back on, lining it up. I'm not quite aligned here. It's because my front loading mechanism is not up all the way. There, now we're aligned back. Okay. Now I should be able to line this thing up. There we go. There's a hole actually underneath here as well. So you can see, if you look down from the top, you can see the hole. So that hole is lining up with a hole that's directly below this hole in the chassis. These pins are lined up as they're supposed to be, and then we drop the gear on and we should be able to see the other pin directly below this hole. Now we're lined up. The gear drops into place. We can put the clip back on. And now we can drop the chassis back onto the circuit board. Now, considering all the water that was in this machine, I want to actually take the circuit board out and just check it to make sure that we don't have any moisture or any corrosion that's going to be an issue. So I'm just going to unplug the DVD drive. There's two plugs in here, one there and one over here. I'm going to unplug the DVD drive, remove it, and then remove the circuit board and look underneath there to see if there's any water damage. And if there is, we'll try and rinse it off with alcohol just so that it'll improve the long-term stability of this machine. It's not that I need another VHS machine, but saying that, I always, when I get the opportunity to get a machine, I always try to make it work, and at least I'll put it in storage, because this is one of the more modern of the VHS machines, and my older ones, well, they're getting old, and I use them for tape archiving. So anytime I can get my hands on a VHS VCR, even though I might not need the thing for, I might not ever need it, but it's always good to have some machines for future use if I need it for something. So the drive comes out just like that. We'll set it aside. And now the circuit board's going to be held down just by a few screws. We'll take out this other side of this bracket. See, I don't see any water on the board, which is actually a good thing. I think most of the water damage on this thing was in the mechanism. If you remember from the beginning of the video, there was lots of water on the head drum, and it looks like there's been a fair bit in the back here too. But we may get lucky and find that there's really not much damage, if any, to the board. I doubt that any water actually got at all into the circuit board, because if there was water and corrosion, then the unit probably wouldn't be working. But it does. We'll take this board out and just take a look at it. So I've got all the screws out. I'll just lift out the board now and take a look at the bottom of it. And as I expected, there's no indication that water got onto the bottom of this at all, which is good. So I don't have to worry about corrosion causing a problem. It looks to be pretty clear. So all the water damage on this was in the mechanism. I don't even think the DVD player got wet, to tell you the truth, because had it gotten wet, I wouldn't have expected it to work. A little bit of water has gotten into some of the connectors here. No big deal. There's a bit of rust. I don't think we have to worry about that. It hasn't gotten into the circuit board, and there's no blown components, because again, if there had been, the unit would not be functional, and it is. So let's just put this thing back together and make sure that it still works. So remount the deck, plug the connectors back in over here. Mount the VCR deck back in place. Don't forget to bring up the wire for the audio head. Don't let it get trapped underneath. Deck just slides into place and should just drop into place. Couple screws down through the chassis to hold it down. One went down through the front here, and the other one at the back. I think one went down, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of these holes back there. Let me just tip it up on its side and see where it went. Yeah, it'd be one of these holes back here. There, that one. The other one is accessed through there. Reconnect the audio head, audio and control head here. and tuck the wire underneath its little holder here for it to tuck the wire under. Keeps the wire out of the way. We have our full erase head, which has to get the wires plugged back into it over here. So they just plug into that top of that connector. And then also this last clip that holds the deck in place with the DVD player, and it just slides over top like that and it snaps down like that. That holds that piece in place, and then we can reconnect the front panel. Remember that there are two connectors, one here and one over here. The one on the front plugs into a connector down at the front here. The other one plugs in over at the side, so we'll put the front connector in first. It might make it a little easier if I pull the unit to the front of my bench, just so that I can reach in here and put this connector in. Don't forget to open the cassette door so that it doesn't get jammed. You have to get it over this little lever here on the side. And of course the last connector needs to be plugged in to that plug right there. And now we can test this thing again. Power on. Get our color bars tape. Play. There's our picture. We'll eject the tape, and then we'll get a DVD and try the DVD drive. There, play. Let's see if it'll play. I don't have the remote for this, so I'm hoping I can actually just press the play button on here and it'll go past the menu, because I didn't get the remote for it. I should go back and look at the dump bin where I picked this up at work. Somebody threw it in the recycle bin. They also threw a Samsung VHS player, and maybe it'll be full of water too. Maybe I'll go pick that out and see whether that one is workable too. I just grabbed this one because it was the easiest to grab, but we'll see if the other one is savable too, if it's still there. So it should bring up my menu here. I gotta go through this. This is pain with DVDs, right? No way to skip this. You have to go through these menus. But let's see if it'll actually play. Well, this disc might not need a menu because it looks like it's just going to play on its own. Let's see if I can skip forward or skip backwards. Well, fast forward works. But this doesn't look to be a disc that it doesn't have chapters on it. But it's working. So there you go. This unit, despite being full of water, works. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye.